In August of 2009, Elizabeth passed away, and at that time, she passed away in August, and we had a June board meeting, and she had elected to step down then as president. And there was a vote taken for a new president, and I was elected to that position. And she retained the chair position, and of course, with her death in August, I also became the board chair. And it's been a 3-year term, and I was just reelected to those positions this past June. Our executive director is basically the face of the foundation. She pretty much handles everything with regard to grant requests, site visits. I do some site visits with her if she requests me to join her, or if I'm interested in this area that she might be visiting. But the foundation has grown financially after my aunt's passing. It's doubled in size. And but our executive director has been with the foundation and had the privilege of being tutored, if you will, by Elizabeth for a number of years. She, I think, goes back to 96 is when she first started part-time with the foundation. And actually, she still is not a full-time, what you would call a full-time employee. She works about 3 days a week. Both Elizabeth and Guido were born in the Upper Peninsula, Guido in Bessemer, and my aunt in Hancock. And my aunt and family, which would be my father and grandmother, and my aunt's father moved to California when my aunt was 7, my dad was 3, and shortly after their moving to California, my grandfather passed away at a very young age, so they moved back to the area in Calumet and resided in Calumet until my aunt's graduation from high school. She went on to Northern Michigan University, where she received a bachelor's degree in education, and then received a scholarship. And at that time, there was only one scholarship offered at each of the state universities, and she received that scholarship and went to the University of Michigan and received her master's degree.
Now, as I think about that period of time, it would have been the early 1900s. That would have been unusual for a woman from
Yes.
not only
Yes.
to get a bachelor's degree, but to go on to school.
Yes. Yep. And Guido, being raised in Bessemer and being from a good Italian family, attended the University of Michigan, the School of Architecture, and received his bachelor's degree there, and then went on to work at various firms in Battle Creek, the Battle Creek area. Had started his own firm, and then, of course, was served in World War II in Burma, in building the Burma Road. And when he returned from the service after World War II, continued on with his own firm, and it grew from there. And he specialized in schools, both elementary schools and high schools. And that's how they met. My aunt was at that time a consultant for the Battle Creek school system in elementary education, and Guido was designing a school in Battle Creek, and they met, and they were actually a a match that no one else, I don't think, could have put together, but they complemented each other. There was never, in our home growing up with my grandmother, and I know with Guido's family, there was never any discussion of poverty. It was always what they had, not what they didn't have. And you would never hear them ever mention anything about going without is what they actually had going forward. And I moved from Calumet, the Upper Peninsula, to Battle Creek in 1971. And it was in 1977 that they formed the foundation. Not having any children of their own, and Guido and Elizabeth both were very interested in education and had done a lot privately with scholarships. And every high school that Guido built, he left a scholarship to a graduating senior. And they were always interested in, I think, giving back. And they did so much privately with no fanfare, didn't look for recognition. And I think the idea of forming a foundation and being able to expand and learn more about how they could contribute was very important to them. I think it was the association they had with the leadership of CMF and also the foundation members. I think at that time when they got involved, a lot of the original founders of the foundations were still around, and they had a very close-knit group, I think, that they could sit and talk with. And the CMF, I think, gave and provided a lot of direction. The foundation, it's not strictly just education. They were always very interested in the arts. They traveled the world over and over. My aunt was Elizabeth was an avid reader, and Guido supported her in everything that she expressed an interest in pursuing. And fortunately, he had the means to do that. And but in the arts, they were followers of the opera, and both served on numerous committees throughout the state and in the city. And
I bet she would be a heck of a fundraiser. I'd love to have her on my board.
she was actually an original member of the Battle Creek Community Foundation. Mm-hmm. And she served on the Kellogg Community College Board of Trustees for 27 years, having also served as its president. I think CMF, one of the important roles that CMF plays with foundations, their member foundations, is they're the arm, they're the extension of the foundation and dealing with government and both state and federal government and other larger foundations that can provide some new ideas and collaboration, if you will. Collaboration, I think, is one of the biggest things that I've seen the CMF organization do in providing training where training is needed. We have been looking at our trustees, and we've openly discussed having to start looking for new members because of age. We have a number of those that have been, hey, we have one trustee who was an original board member, Dr. Vern Boss, and so we had been talking about it and really haven't, we pretty much, it's been discussion. We haven't formulated a plan yet as to the approach that we're going to take. In the past, of course, it was always Elizabeth that would, based on recommendations and her observations, and the people she knew, would decide who she wanted to serve on their board. One of the things that both Guido and Elizabeth felt was the secret to the foundation was the continuity that the trustees had. It's always been a small board, and the atmosphere amongst board members is just wonderful. Everyone feels free to express themselves, and being a small foundation and with such a close-knit board, we can do things much quicker than some larger foundations. And Elizabeth always said that the secret to the foundation was the board, not any one individual, but the board. And she always instilled in board members that we needed to keep that continuity amongst. She didn't want to see people added just to add a member. With the number of foundations in just our area, no, we don't feel isolated at all. And we try to, in every way possible, try to partner with other foundations and or organizations on grants. We're not a standalone organization at all. We feel it's important that people that have received grants from the Binda Foundation feel that they can come back to the foundation, but not as the sole grantor, if you will, for another project, that we like to see them approach other foundations within the community and or area, and that there be collaboration in the grant-making process. The way that the Binda Foundation handles grants, of course, they are submitted to the foundation through our executive director, and she compiles we have 2 grant-making meetings, grant review meetings during the year. And there's a grant review committee that reviews all of the grant requests. And that committee then makes recommendations to the entire board, and then the board decides on, and from there, and the grant review committee is a very diversified group, and there's much discussion as to the type of funding that the Binda Foundation might provide in collaboration with possibly other foundations that might have an interest, and then we pass that on. Probably the most important thing is that you have to be willing to share your time and your services and be a good listener, an extremely good listener. And it's amazing that if a person is interested, that there are opportunities, both through the Council of Michigan Foundations and other foundations, but that they first get involved in the community and see and get to know people, and but it has to be in your heart. I think it's you have to feel it, it has to be a passion, I think. So I grew up in Calumet, Michigan, and up in the Upper Peninsula. My mother came from a very large family, and my father, of course, was Elizabeth's sister. And they always were very positive. Both families were, and extended families. As my aunt always said, that the extended family, growing up in that day, the church was very important in their lives. The relationship they had with their family was extremely important. And I could see that growing up, that, we didn't have everything, but we had what we needed. And
Was your family itself a large family, your brothers and sisters?
I have one brother. Yes. And I think my father was very involved in everything my brother and I did, whether it be in sports, in school. My father served over 20 years on the Board of Education at the Calumet High School, or Calumet Public Schools.
You didn't
And
get away with anything.
Pardon?
You didn't get away with anything.
No. And I think it was just through action, you could see that it was important to them. And I think my brother and I both felt that you have to, again, give back, do something. And my wife comes from a very similar family background, and she's done a lot of volunteerism, and I think my aunt had a big impression on her. My passion was always working with young kids and coaching, whether it be hockey teams or just being around younger children and seeing them develop. I think through action, my wife was a professional until she had our first daughter and elected to be a stay-at-home mother. And so we didn't have everything that all the other families had on the block. We eventually got a computer and so forth. But again, my wife was extremely involved in everything they did in school. And I was working a lot. And but never complained. Our oldest daughter is a school teacher, and my aunt was very proud of her. And our youngest daughter's a graduate of Michigan State and is married and lives in the Chicago area now, and does a lot of volunteerism through the animal rescue shelters in the area that they're in, and has done a lot of volunteer work in other organizations where they've lived. In a lot of ways, not something I was looking forward to. At that time, having been, and again, this might be off record, but my aunt's health was declining. And I was also the executor of the estate. And so originally when I was asked to serve on the foundation board, I questioned my aunt because I was not a college graduate. I had attended college, but I just felt I could do other things that I would be more happy doing. And she explained to me that there were other gifts that I could bring, and that a college degree, yes, is very important, but it's not the only thing that one needs in life. But it was the transition with her health, and it was a struggle. It was The transition within the foundation, I think, was very smooth because of the board and our executive director. It was a very smooth transition. In the articles that Robin is going to copy, I think what you'll find in there is and as was on the tape that Guido and Elizabeth did with Norm Brown, Dr. Norm Brown, when he was the president of the Kellogg Foundation. And they talked about them forming the foundation, and she was asked, what do you really need to start a foundation? And I think she said a big heart, caring, and a small purse. And I think we live by that. The caring is the important thing.